If there was anything more virtuous than knowledge, Allah would have ordered His messenger. Every salik, everyone who wants to get to Allah successfully, he wants to meet Allah and Allah is happy with him. What does he need? Knowledge that gives him insight and that guides him. And the second one is high aspiration that lifts him up. The ulama, they have a tazkiyah, they have a praise from Allah, and Allah consider them reliable. What will their job be? They will stand to defend this religion from the distortion, from the tampering, from the mocking of those who try to tamper with it. The importance of seeking knowledge. The first ayah that inshallah ta'ala that I will use is the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al Imran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, Shahid Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He testifies, Annahu la ilaha illa huwa, that there is none worthy of worship except Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wal malaikatu, and the angels. Wa ulul ilmi, and the third are the people of knowledge. So let's ponder inshallah and think on these verses. Allah is saying subhanahu wa ta'ala that He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He testifies that there is none worthy of worship. So the first who testified that there is none worthy of worship is who? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. And then who is the second? Wal malaika, and the angels. And then who did Allah make the third? Wa ulul ilm, the people of knowledge. Allah made them the third one. Now what you all have to realize is, what is it that Allah has used them as evidence? What has Allah used the people of knowledge as an evidence? Or how has Allah used them in terms of their testimony? Pay attention to the question that I'm asking inshallah ta'ala. Allah is using the ulama, the people of knowledge, Allah is using them as a witness. And you only use a witness in someone who is reliable, who is truthful in what they say and truthful in what they do. The second thing is that Allah used them in a witness in the greatest thing that a person can testify towards, which is Tawheed. Tawheed, Allah is using the ulama. The third benefit you can take from the verse is Allah has mentioned them next to the angels and next to His own name. When you read the verse, you see that Allah has connected His name, and then after that the angels, and then after that the people of knowledge. So that's a very high status. That is a very high status. And Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he is one of the scholars who commented on the Quran. And he has a ahkam, a book where he extracts ahkam from the Quran. And Imam al-Qurtubi said regarding that verse, Abu Abdullah al-Qurtubi, he said regarding that verse, في هذه الآية, in this verse there is dalilun, an evidence. In this verse there's an evidence. على فضل العلم, the virtue of knowledge. وشرف العلماء, and the virtue of the scholars. وفضلهم, and their virtue. فإنه لو كان أحد أشرف من العلماء, because if there was anyone who was more honorable than them, لقرنهم الله, Allah would have mentioned them باسمه واسم ملائكته كما قرن اسم العلماء. If there was anyone who was more noble than the scholars, Allah would have mentioned them next to the angels and Himself. But because there is no one more noble than the ulama and the people of knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chose to use them after what? After He Himself subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then the angels. وقال, this is the kalam of Imam al-Qurtubi. وقال تعالى في شرف العلم. Qurtubi then says, Allah has also said in regards to the virtue of knowledge to His messenger لنبيه صلى الله عليه وسلم, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. Oh Allah, increase me in knowledge. فَلَوْ كَانَ شَيْءٌ. If there was anything أَشْرَفَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ, more virtuous than knowledge, لَأَمَرَ اللَّهُ, Allah would have ordered نَبِيَّهُ, his messenger, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and يَسْأَلَهُ, to ask. If there was anything more virtuous and greater than knowledge, Allah would have asked the messenger to ask Allah to increase him in it. أن يسأله المزيد منه كما أمره أن يستزيده من العلم. Al-Imam Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he said regarding that verse, the same verse, شهد الله, he said قرن الله تعالى شهادة ملائكته وأولو العلم بشهادته فقال شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم وهذه خصوصية عظيمة للعلماء في هذا المقام. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah said, Allah has mentioned the testimony of the angels and the people of knowledge with his own testimony, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he brought the ayah. وَهَذِهِ, and in this testimony is what? خُصُوصِيَّةٌ, a unique specification. عَظِيمَةٌ, that is noble and high. لِلْعُلَمَاءِ, for the people of knowledge. في هذا المقام, in this matter. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah al-Jawziyah, the student of who? Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn al-Qayyim has a book called Miftahu Dar al-Sa'adah. Ibn al-Qayyim, he has a book called Miftahu Dar al-Sa'adah. Whatever publication you rely on, the volumes differ. But if you rely on the best publication, which is Daru Alam al-Fawaid, they published it in one very thick volume. In that book, Ibn al-Qayyim, he brings 153 virtues regarding knowledge. 153 virtues regarding knowledge. Ibn al-Qayyim, that's what he does. And that book of Ibn al-Qayyim, it talks about two things. What does it talk about? Two things. The first thing that it talks about is knowledge and its importance. So when you read the first page, the first couple of pages, he goes over 153 virtues of knowledge. After he finishes, Ibn al-Qayyim, he goes into what? The second thing, which is irada, to have a drive. And Ibn al-Qayyim used to say in his books, he says it in many places, every salik, everyone who wants to get to Allah successfully, he wants to meet Allah and Allah is happy with him. What does he need? He said, عِلْمٌ يُبَصِّرُهُ وَيَهْدِيهِ, knowledge that gives him insight and that guides him. And the second one is what? وَهِمَّةٌ تُرَقِيهِ, high aspiration that lifts him up. Everybody needs that. Everyone needs what? He needs knowledge which gives him insight and that guides him. And what does he also need? He also needs irada, a motive, a drive. And many of you have not probably pondered on that. That is what we ask Allah in the salah 5 times a day. In every rak'ah, we ask in Surah Al-Fatiha, we say, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Which path are we asking Allah? من جمع بين العلم والعمل. Those who have combined between knowledge and the ability to execute that knowledge which they had, which is to implement it. Who are those who have gone against that path? They are the Jews and the Christians. The Christians, they don't have knowledge, but they have aspiration and drive and motive. But they don't have what? They don't have knowledge. So they implement or they do without knowledge. Whereas what? The Jews, they have what? They have the knowledge, but do they implement what they know? No. The Muslims have combined, inshallah ta'ala, or the believer who inshallah Allah has given him tawfiq, he has combined between what? Ilm and amal. So that book, Ibn al-Qayyim, that noble book, Miftahu Dar al-Sa'ada, Ibn al-Qayyim, the first evidence he brought regarding the virtues of seeking knowledge is the ayah that I read in Surah Al-Imran, Shahid Allahu. Ibn al-Qayyim says about this ayah, when he brings it, he says, هَذَا يَدُلُّ, this ayah shows, عَلَى فَضْلِ الْعِلْمِ, the virtue of knowledge, وَأَهْلِهِ, and its people. Min wujuhin, from many angles. From many angles. أحدها, the first one is استشهادهم دون غيرهم من البشر. The first one is Allah took the people of knowledge as a evidence, as a witness. Allah has taken them subhanahu wa ta'ala. 2. اقتران شهادتهم بشهادته. Allah has mentioned His testimony subhanahu wa ta'ala with the testimony of the people of knowledge. والثالث, the third, اقترانها, Allah mentioning it next to بشهادة ملائكته, next to His angels. It's another virtue. The angels are what? لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون يسبحون الليل والنهار لا يفطرون. They are a creation who obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He commands them. So you as a person of knowledge, inshallah, you will be mentioned and inshallah have that ability to be mentioned next to Allah and His angels. والرابع, the fourth, أن في ضمن هذا تزكيتهم. This ayah is to show Allah has given a reference. Allah has given a tazkiyah. A tazkiyah is what? A appraisal letter, right? Allah has praised them subhanahu wa ta'ala. If one of you today wanted to go to the University of Medina, or you wanted to study in an Islamic university, you ask for what? You ask for tazkiyah. Those who are going to universities, the UCAS, in which you apply and you write your personal statements. Or if you go for a job, they ask you for a reference letter from your previous company. Or they ask you your previous individual you were working with. Sahih? The ulama, they have a tazkiyah. They have a praise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَنَّ فِي ضِمْنِ هَذَا تَزْكِيَتُهُمْ وَتَعْدِيلَهُمْ. And Allah considered them reliable. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ, verily Allah, لَا يَسْتَشْهَدُ, Allah does not take a witness مِنْ خَلْقِهِ, from His creations, إِلَّا الْعُدُولَ, except those who are reliable. Allah won't use them as a what? Witness if they're not reliable. He only used them because they're reliable. وَمِنْهُ الْأَثَرُ, and from that there's an evidence, there's an athar. Al-ma'rufu, that is known, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, from the messenger, which what he said, يَحْمِلُ هَذَا الْعِلْمَ, this knowledge, it will carry it. Who? مِنْ كُلِّ خَلَفٍ, every generation, this knowledge will be carried. عُدُولُهُ, the reliable ones are going to carry it. ينفون عنه تحريف الغالين وانتحار المبطلين وتأويل الجاهلين. What will their job be? They will stand to defend this religion from the distortion, from the tampering, from the mocking of those who try to tamper with it, or who try to distort it, or who try to what? Who try to mock it. They are there to stand to protect it.